reality. And lastly, for the researcher himself, that will remind him that his becoming is dependent on his past and present situation. This will encourage the researcher to develop the virtue of prudence. Next is the research methodology. This research uses a qualitative philosophical method, specifically a descriptive analytical approach. This means the researcher examined philosophical texts, interpreted conceptual arguments, and analyzed the implications of Whitehead's metaphysical ideas. Primary and secondary sources were studied in order to understand the concept of prehension and its relevance in metaphysics. Let's move to chapter 2, entitled Whitehead's Notion of Interrelating the Actual Occasion and Eternal Entities. Chapter 2 discusses Whitehead's process metaphysics. Whitehead was influenced by several philosophers. From Plato, he adopted the concept of eternal forms, which influenced his idea of eternal entities. From Leibniz, he adopted the idea of experiential units of internal relations. From Hume, he inherited the philosophical problem of causation. And from Bergson, he adopted the idea of creative becoming. And from William James, he adopted radical empiricism, which emphasizes the primacy of experience. These philosophical influences shape Whitehead's understanding of reality as a creative process. Next, reality as creative process. Whitehead defines reality as a creative advance and to novelty. This means that reality is not static, but continuously evolving. Each moment arises from the past and contributes to the future. He also reconciles permanence and change by suggesting that permanence is derived from patterns within flux, while flux itself is fundamental condition of existence. Thus, reality is both structured and dynamic. Actual occasions and internal relations. Actual occasions are the ultimate constituents of reality. They are not enduring substances, but momentary events of becoming. Each occasion arises through its relation with prior occasions. This implies that no entity exists independently. All relations are eternal. Reality is fundamentally interconnected. Eternal entities and definiteness. Eternal entities are pure possibilities or potentials. Unlike Platonic forms, they do not exist in a separate realm, but are realized within actual occasions. They provide the structure of definiteness that allows actual occasions to take on specific characteristics. Next is concrescence and satisfaction. Concrescence is the process by which an actual occasion becomes. It involves the integration of multiple past data, the selection and valuation of possibilities, the formation of a unified experience. Satisfaction is the completion of this process, after which the occasion perishes but leaves an objective influence on future occasion. Now let's move to prehension. Prehension is the central mechanism of Whitehead's metaphysics. It refers to the way an entity feels or incorporates other entities in its own constitution. Unlike traditional perception, prehension is not limited to conscious awareness, but applies to all levels of reality. Through prehension, the past is actively present in the present. Relations are internalized. Becoming is made possible. So let's move to types of prehension. First is the physical prehension. Physical prehension refers to the direct feeling of the past actual occasions that are incorporated into the present moment. It explains causality not as external force, but as an internal process where the past is actively inherited and experienced. Next is conceptual prehension. Conceptual prehension involves the grasping of eternal entities or pure possibilities that shape the becoming of an actual occasion. It introduces novelty by allowing entities to go beyond mere repetition of the past. Through this, each entity can envision and select potential forms of realization. This process is guided by the subjective aim, which directs the entity toward a particular outcome. Now let's move to prehension on actual occasions. There are two types. First is positive prehension. Positive prehension refers to the inclusion of certain data into the internal constitution of an actual entity. These selected elements are actively felt and contribute to the formation of the entity's identity. Through this process, relevant aspects of past experiences and possibilities are integrated into the present. It allows the entity to build coherence and continuity in its becoming. Next is negative prehension. Negative prehension is the exclusion of certain data to the process of becoming. It ensures that not all elements are incorporated, allowing the entity to maintain clarity and definiteness. Without this exclusion, the entity would be overwhelmed by infinite possibilities and past data. Next is the role of God in Whitehead's metaphysics. In Whitehead's system, God functions as a principle within the process of reality, rather than an external creator. God's primordial nature order eternal entities, providing a structural realm of possibilities. God's consequent nature prehends the world, integrating all experiences into a unified whole. This dual aspect ensures both order and responsiveness within the process of becoming. Thus, God sustains the coherence and value of reality without interrupting its dynamic nature. Let's move on to chapter 3, the traditional view of reality. The classical Greek understanding of reality fundamentally grounded in the primacy of being over becoming. First is Plato. Plato, reality as form and transcendent being. In the philosophy of Plato, reality is fundamentally structured through the dualistic framework consisting of the world of becoming, the sensible world, and the world of being, the intelligible realm of forms. For Plato, true reality resides not in the material world, which is subject to change and imperfection, but in the forms or idus, which are eternal, immutable, and universal. These forms serve as the perfect archetypes of all things. Next is Aristotle, substance as primary being. Aristotle critiques Plato's separation of forms and interprets them as immanent within substances. His metaphysics centers on the concept of substance or ousia, which is primary mode of being. Substance is composed of form, the defining essence of a thing, matter, the underlying substratum. Change for Aristotle is the actualization of potentiality. However, despite acknowledging change, he maintains that the substance endures through change. Change is ordered and teleological. Reality remains fundamental, stable, and structured. From a Whiteheadian perspective, Aristotle advances the discussion beyond Plato by integrating form and matter, yet still retains the substance-based ontology, where entities persist as underlying subject of change rather than a process in themselves. Next is medieval synthesis. First is substance and accidents. Medieval philosophy, especially in scholastic thought, developed Aristotle's metaphysics further. A key distinction is between substance, that which exists in itself, accidents, properties that exist in another. For example, a tree is a substance, while its greenness or height are accidents. This distinction implies that substance is ontologically primary. Accidents are dependent modifications. Next is essence and existence. Major development in medieval metaphysics is distinction between essence and existence. Essence, what a thing is defining nature. Existence, that a thing is its act of being. Next is the problem of universals. The problem of universals concerns the metaphysical status of general concepts such as humanity, goodness, and justice. The central question is whether those universals have real existence or merely product of human thought. And first is realism. In metaphysical realism, universals are considered to have real existence independent of particular things. Realism emphasizes stability and objectivity, but it tends to treat universals as fixed and independent of change. Next is nominalism. In contrast, nominalism denies the real existence of universals. While nominalism avoids metaphysical abstraction, it leads to a fragmented view of reality where relations and commonalities lack ontological grounding. Next is conceptualism. Conceptualism offers a middle position between realism and nominalism. It holds that universals do not exist independently in reality. They exist as concepts within the human mind. Next is the hierarchy of being. Traditional metaphysics, especially in medieval philosophy, proposes a hierarchy of being where reality is structured in ascending levels of perfection. Inanimate matter, living organisms, human beings, angels, and God as the highest being. This hierarchical model emphasizes order, stability, and gradation of perfection. However, it presupposes a static ontology where each level has a fixed place in structure of reality. Whitehead challenges this by proposing the reality is not fixed hierarchy but a dynamic network of processes where each actual location contributes to the ongoing creative advance. Next is Cartesian dualism. In the philosophy of René Descartes, reality is divided into fundamentally distinct substances, the res cogitans or thinking substance and res extensas, extended substance. This dualism creates a sharp separation between mind and body, subject and object. Whitehead resolves this by proposing that all entities possess some degree of experience, thereby eliminating the strict division between mind and matter. Next is the mechanistic reality of Descartes. Cartesian dualism contributes to the development of mechanistic worldview, where reality is understood as composed of inert particles governed by external laws, functioning like machine. In his framework, causality is external and deterministic. Change is reducible to motion. Meaning and value are excluded from nature. In this view, Whitehead argues that which emphasizes that reality is eternally related, experiential, and value-laden. Next is Newtonian physics and the scientific worldview. Newtonian physics, the scientific revolution, particularly through Isaac Newton, reinforces the mechanistic understanding of reality. Newtonian physics describes the universe as a system of particles in motion, governed by universal laws of motion and gravity. Next is critics to traditional view and turn to process and reality. Traditional metaphysics developed from Greek through modern philosophy is largely characterized by a commitment to substance, permanence, and external relations. While this framework provides stability and logical clarity, it counters significant difficulties in explaining the reality of change and novelty, the continuity of experience through time, the internal relatedness of entities. Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. In his seminal work, Critique of Pure Reason, Immanuel Kant fundamentally reorients metaphysics by questioning the possibility of knowing reality as it is in itself. Kant argues that traditional metaphysics mistakenly assumes that human reason can access things in themselves or noumena. Instead, he proposes that human knowledge is limited to phenomena or things as they appear. Next is Henry Bergson's concept of jury and a metaphor of snowball. Henry Bergson advances the critique of traditional metaphysics by directly challenging its treatment of time and change. Duration or durée as lived time. In contrast, Bergson introduces the concept of durée or lived duration. Duration is continuous and indivisible, qualitative rather than quantitative, experienced internally rather than measured externally. The snowball metaphor, Bergson illustrates duration through the metaphor of a snowball rolling downhill. As the snowball rolls, it continuously accumulates snow. Its past is preserved within the present state. It grows and changes without losing continuity. Chapter 4, the relevance of prehension. First is prehension as relational ontology. Prehension establishes a radical redefinition of ontology, in contrast to substance metaphysics, where entities exist independently and relations are secondary. Whitehead argues that relations are constitutive of entities. An entity is what it is because of how it prehends others. Thus, there are no self-contained substances. Every entity is internally related to the world. Reality is a network of interdependent processes. This leads to relational ontology, where being is inseparable from interaction. Next is comprehending causality through prehension. Traditional causality is often conceived as external and mechanical. For instance, an object impacts another in a linear sequence. However, drawing from the critique of David Hume, Whitehead redefines causality as an internal and experiential. Through prehension, the past is not merely inferred but directly felt. Causation is the transmission of experience. The present is constituted by the active incorporation of the past. Thus, causality becomes a process of inheritance rather than mere external interaction. Next is epistemological implications. Knowledge is grounded in eternal relations, not isolated data. In traditional epistemology, knowledge is often understood as correspondence between subject and object. Whitehead challenges this by proposing that knowledge is rooted in prehension, which precedes conscious cognition. This implies that knowing is a form of participation and reality. Experience is fundamentally relational. Conscious knowledge is derivative form of a more basic experiential process. This view aligns with radical empiricism, particularly in William James, where relations are directly experienced. Next is subjectivity and notion of value. A significant implication of prehension is introduction of subjectivity at all levels of reality. Each actual location possesses a subjective aim, guiding its process of becoming, a capacity for valuation, selecting among possibilities. This leads to a metaphysical framework in which value is intrinsic, not imposed externally by human observers. Thus, reality is not merely factual, but also evaluative. Next is ethical implications. Responsibility and interconnectedness. This relational nature of reality has profound ethical consequences. If all entities are interconnected, then actions will never be isolated. Every decision contributes to the unfolding of reality. Responsibility extends beyond individual outcomes. Ethics, therefore, is grounded not merely in rules, but in recognition of relational existence. This perspective encourages awareness of consequences, sensitivity to interconnected system, a holistic approach to moral responsibility. And last, the chapter 5, the conclusion. For the summary, the study establishes that Alfred North Whitehead's concept of prehension function as a central metaphysical principle for interpreting reality within process philosophy. Rejecting the notion of static substances, Whitehead conceives reality as a dynamic process of becoming, wherein entities are defined by their relations rather than isolated existence. Prehension denotes the manner in which each actual location feels or incorporates other entities, allowing past events to shape the present and the present to contribute the future. Drawing from both Greek philosophy and modern scientific thought, Whitehead advances the view of reality as fluid, experiential, and creative. The study highlights the relatedness is foundational to reality, grounding the ethical dimension. Since entities are internally related, action inevitably affect others. Causality, therefore, is not merely mechanical, but involves the transmission of experience across the interconnected web of becoming. For the philosophical insights, the study argues that in the philosophy of Alfred North Whitehead, relationship constitute the fundamental structure of reality. His process-oriented framework presents a balanced view, which every actual location is both shaped by prior events and contributes to the future developments, thereby rejecting the notion of independent, self-contained entities. It maintains that knowledge extends beyond conscious intellectual activity to include preconscious and experiential mode of engagement. Knowing is thus not merely abstract cognition, but active participation in the interconnected processes that constitute reality. For the recommendation, the researcher recommends for further exploration of Whitehead's process philosophy in order to contribute to ongoing philosophical dialogue between being and becoming. The study also recommends the future researchers to expand the discussion beyond metaphysics and explore its implications in epistemology, ethics, and theology, and also a comparative analysis between Whitehead's philosophy and other thinkers such as Henry Bergson, as well as theological thinkers like Thomas Aquinas, Bernard Lonergan, and Pope John Paul II, particularly in relation to the themes of experience, relationality, and process. So that's all my presentation. And let's end this presentation with a quotation from Alfred North Whitehead himself. It belongs to the nature of a being that it is a potential for every becoming. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so for presenting the main points of your thesis, now we shall proceed to the question and answer and some clarifications and feedback from the panels. I'd like to ask Sir Ben.
Thank you, Father. All right. Good morning. Good morning, Father Dean, to our also critic, and to the people here, and Jelmar, Brother Jelmar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. So, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and congratulations. No. So some important notes regarding your work. First, I think there is a need to there's a need to be precise and, precise with your definitions, your concepts like prehension, conclusions, some key concepts. Because I found out that while reading your material, there are several instances where the concept prehension is being defined, but it is defined differently. No? I'm not sure what's the what. I don't know your intention in doing so, but when you define the term differently, that actually poses sort of like confusion on our part, no, in my as a reader. So the question, my question is, what exactly do you mean by prehension? So it's just an example of, we have to be more, you have to be more aware, to be more cautious in defining your terms in a way that it is consistent all throughout your material. Second, for some technical issues, I think you have to, when a passage is set off, it doesn't need to be put in quotation marks. No, so you don't have to put them in quotation marks, because I think passages that are blocked or set off, but yet they are in quotation marks. And then clarifications in terms of your questions. No? Yeah, I appreciate your discussion on Whitehead. Although of course I'm not really familiar with Whitehead, but but since you're working on Whitehead, I tried my best as well to do some readings and research on Whitehead's ideas. So my question here has to do with whether, first one, you're trying to establish or trying to show the relevance of Whitehead's notion.
Yes.
in comprehending reality. Where are you coming from? Why is this important? I mean, is there really a need to establish or to highlight the relevance of Whitehead's notion of prehension in trying to understand reality?
Okay. So to answer that question, first is the we are preoccupied already by the Westernian thoughts about substance, but we all know that in our in our environment there's a change and there's an event. So how can we understand that event and how can we understand that experience? So that's the main reason why the researcher choose to uh, write on Whitehead, because Whitehead is more on experiential and Whitehead is more on events that constitute the reality, not the substance. It is not because of debating, not because of traversing from substance metaphysics, but in order to also to understand about those events and experience of the reality or those events happening in reality.
All right, thank you. My next question is whether it is important to include question number two. If you go to your statement of the problem,
Yes.
whether it is important to pose this question, no? How is reality and the world perceived in traditional metaphysics? Will this question, is this question necessary in order to answer your main problem, or can this be, in a way, omitted, no? Or pwede na siyang not really to yeah, to address or to discuss this. Not discussing it may not entirely affect how you not entirely affect the main problem or answering the main problem. That's my question. Kasi like I think that the question can be subsumed in the first question then, no? Like providing the context of Whitehead, because you mentioned about Whitehead trying to like challenge the traditional substance metaphysics. So instead of simply just stating it, you include in your discussion the context, no? What's in the traditional metaphysics that Whitehead was trying to like challenge. So you can include that in the first part in chapter 2, but not to make a separate discussion on it. I'm not sure, but my question is whether it really needs a sort of like a separate chapter, no? Yung question na yan.
So thank you for that question. So the answer for that question is like this. So in order to establish the relevance of Alfred North Whitehead, we put up this question in order it's not omitted to discuss, because some readers will know what is substance metaphysics, what is Greek metaphysics, what is uh, the idea of Western philosophers. So you put it here in order for them to understand what's Whitehead's trying to challenge in order to establish the foundation of what is this Western metaphysics or what is this Greek metaphysics or substance-based ontology, sir. That's
All right, yeah, thank you. But do you think you can include this in your question number 1?
yeah, it can include the challenge, but it is more systematic if we put on the other to answer this in other on other on other what do you call this, another chapter.
What makes it more systematic?
Because if we put it in under the prehension, then we can there's a confusion to the readers that will say, what is this substance-based ontology Whitehead wants to challenge? Where it came from, or what is that meaning of that? So there's some readers that can understand where, what is substance-based metaphysics? What is this metaphysics all about? So I included in chapter 2 or chapter 3 in order for them to read and to understand what is this substance-based metaphysics was all about.
All right. Thank you. Question number 3. How is the notion of prehension relevant in perceiving the world? What do you mean by perceive? Perceiving.
Perceiving is your cognition to see the world, or what you call this? Perceive is the conscious act of understanding or seeing the world. That's what it means.
So is your discussion of prehension only limited to human entities?
So to say that it is significant for human entities, but it is for whole entities. It's not for not just humans. Prehension is, first, the meaning of prehension is to feel or grasp, but it is not limited to human only. But if you asking if it is relevant only for humans, then yes, it is, because we are the one who perceiving the world, and as we perceive the world, we can see the reality is not like other metaphysics substance based. But in perceiving the world in Whitehead's idea, we can see even the immobile entities, they are societies of events.
So in other words, you are still limited to the idea that when you say perceiving the world, this is from the point of view of the human entities.
Yes,
But you also said that prehension is also present in non-human entities.
yes, non-human. But let me clarify the question, sir. So you asked question is the relevance of prehension in perceiving the world is significant only for humans because we are the one who have the rational.
No, because the question has to do with the what you're trying to establish the relevance of prehension, but only in the point of view of the human perception. As it says here, perceiving the world.
Yes.
The notion of prehension relevant in perceiving the world. When you say perceiving the world, are you referring to the human perception, or are you referring to the perceiving of the world by any entities having the capacity of prehension?
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So that perceiving the world is by the entities. Your latter this comment.
So
That's,
that makes sense in a way of makes sense, no? When you say how the prehension is relevant
Yeah.
when non-human entities perceive the world. My
yes.
next question is, how do we know how these non-human entities perceive the world?
Okay. So if we say that the perception is limited to human capacity, okay. But if we say that even immobile entities, those who don't have rational, they have their perception, and by that we call it the prehension or triviality, the very low act of uh, feeling the other locations or other entities. So that's my good answer.
When you say non-human entities, are you referring to living creatures or even the non-living?
It's living and non-living.
So you mean to say tables, chairs,
Yeah.
uh, So if they are capable of prehension, then how do we know how these entities perceive the world? Is there a way to know that?
Alfred note Whitehead in his philosophy didn't stated about that how these immobile entities or non-living entities perceive the world, but he discusses about these entities prehends other actual locations. That's the
Yes, yes.
yes.
I think my issue has to do with the use of perceiving the world, the use of
Yes.
perception.
The use of
Because that may
perception.
be, although it's okay, that's why I ask you to whether your idea, your problem concerning the relevance has to do with yung human lang, no? Human-centered perception lang. So maybe you can consider that using the word perception. And perception is actually misleading because as I understood Whitehead, it's not so much of epistemology that he was actually interested in, but more of metaphysics or ontology. So perception is more of epistemic, the notion of perception. No?
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay. My suggestion also in your thesis statement is you state here the very answer to the main question. No? That would be the thesis statement.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Other things, can you define in your own words what prehension is for Whitehead?
Okay. Defining prehension in Whitehead in my own understanding is grasping or taking in an account of the past experiences or past occasions in order for one's becoming. So it means felt or feeling. But feeling is not like what we meant of emotion. It is more deeper than that.
If it's more deeper, what is that?
Feeling is like the I don't know how to define it in a very simple way. It's but it's like grasping or taking in. Feeling for Whitehead is not emotion like that, but it's different. It's grasping or taking in account or like what do you call this? Like the cell, like the cell, and then uh, it mutated. So there's the internal relations between them. So the feeling is there is grasping or taking in the account of past cell who dies into another one cell who is to become. So feeling is not more on emotional or like what we define as feeling, but rather it's hard to put in words that word feeling. What the meaning of prehension is taking account or grasping or feeling.
All right, thank you. Just to cite some of the places where some of the definitions in your text. I think page 2 you already in a way define what prehension is, and then you have in the scope and limitation page 5 you also again define prehension. No? Let me just cite it. Prehension or the process in which the actual object reflects the potentialities of the entity or the becoming of things. Uh, how would you explain this? I mean, there are this sort of definition is loaded with a lot of technical, metaphysical concepts. No, you have the word object, you have the word potentialities, you have the word entity, and then you have the word thing.
Thing. Yes.
All in all, how would you, all in all, or in short, what is prehension in this particular definition?
So here the prehension is the process in which the actual occasion
The
is
actual
occasion.
object.
Yes, actual, but it is the grasping or taking in or valuation of the eternal entity this one, or the potentiality, and constituting to the becoming of the actual location or things. Because Whitehead, in his idea of being, is the actual location, the actuality of those events.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Because what I'm trying to like find at least sort of essential elements, no,
Yes, yes, sir.
in defining prehension. Like, what are those elements, no, that would in a way essentially define the concept prehension, and then also um, actual occasions.
Yes,
Can
actual
you
location.
like explain it again in your own words, in your own understanding, what actual occasion is for Whitehead?
Yes, actual location is the momentary events.
Momentary events.
Yes,
Like what? Can you give actually what is for me what is missing in order to establish that you in a way able to comprehend and understand
Whitehead.
the text of Whitehead is to really provide some illustrations or examples. No, so I think in your revisions, of course, you made mention some, but then it's not really kind of enough in order to establish or to impress to
yes.
your readers that you understood or you understand these concepts well. Okay. So momentary events. Can you give an example of a momentary event?
Yes, for example, no, as we are here speaking at this present, so the way I speak, the word I speak at the same time, at the same space, that's a momentary event. So after that, it will perish. And
It will
another
perish.
event will come. And that is the actual location, the now, the what we call the momentary event is the event happen at the same space and time.
Are actual occasions the primary? Are these the essential properties of reality for Whitehead?
That's the principle of reality of Whitehead. It's the constituent of reality.
That constitutes reality for
Yes,
Whitehead.
Whitehead, yeah.
So, what about the future and the past?
The future and the past, they are past events also, sir. So they are what they call this? They are objective immortality. So as the events perishes, it's already past. But it is not mean that past you have, that they are already history, or they are not what they call this? They are not constituting the realities, but still they are, because that past events are seen in the present event also because of prehension.
All right. Okay. Thank you. I think I'll end there. No,
Okay.
although I have some more concerns, I'll just note them here in your
Okay. Thank
paper.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So let's hear from Prof. Ringor.
Good morning, Brother Jelmar.
Yeah.
Just
Good
to
morning.
confirm, can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Loud and
Okay.
clear.
First of all, congratulations to you for reaching this stage, and also congratulations to Father Gwen for guiding you properly, at least as a writer and as a researcher. Uh, and good morning to the panel, the students, and also, of course, to the dean of the college. Um, Let me begin with my question about, again, just the same concern. It has to do with the thesis statement. You stated that your study aims to provide a more adequate metaphysical framework for comprehending reality. Okay. Now, you also said that, uh, you also said here that the study is a pure exposition of Whitehead's notion of prehension. So, what is really the objective of your work? Because it has to be clear, at least to the readers, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to reappropriate by means of looking for a more adequate metaphysical framework? Or are you just simply exposing the work of Whitehead?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the answer is it's on expository side of Whitehead's uh, notion, Whitehead's
Okay.
metaphysical framework.
Okay. Since you are saying that this is more on expository, I would like you to at least consider um, consider working on the thesis statement that explicitly says that you are looking for a more adequate metaphysical framework, because by exposing Whitehead's work, you are actually saying that Alfred North Whitehead's metaphysical framework for comprehending reality is already sufficient. It is already adequate. Okay, that's why you are exposing it. You are not looking for a more adequate metaphysical framework, unless what you are really trying to say is you are saying Alfred North Whitehead's uh, metaphysical framework as an alternative, no? Which I don't think that is the case as I read your work. Well, in a way, you are looking for that. However, I will go to my next question. Okay? You were saying earlier that the reason why Whitehead's metaphysical framework for comprehending reality is adequate is because you find traditional metaphysics, traditional view of reality as something that is inadequate. Am I correct?
Again, sir, I
Do you find traditional metaphysics as something that is inadequate?
so
Slide mo yan kanina, brother.
for Alfred North Whitehead now about his idea of prehension.
Actually, for
He-
you, not for
Yeah,
Alfred North Whitehead.
yeah,
Because the
yeah.
reason why you are exposing Whitehead is because you find traditional metaphysics, at least following Whitehead, as something that is inadequate.
Yes, yes, that's it.
So that's it. You find traditional metaphysics inadequate.
Yes.
Okay, if that is the case, let me now go to the sub question coming uh, from that specific point. Um, if traditional metaphysics is inadequate, then what separates prehension from apprehension?
So for Alfred North Whitehead, no, in his idea of prehension, it is a taking or taking in account or feels. Apprehension is something like it is grasping or comprehending. That's it.
Are
So
they not one and the same? Is
there's a
this a matter of semantic difference?
there's a difference between prehension for Whitehead and apprehension, as it says. As he says that apprehension is more on conscious, more on conscious ability, but prehension is deeper than that
How is it deeper? Because
because
you cannot just simply say it's deeper without explaining how is it deeper
because
than traditional metaphysics.
because prehension is beyond or more deeper than just cognition. It is more on unconscious and conscious what do you call this ability to taking in or grasping like that.
It's more unconscious. Is that
Yes,
what you're saying? So how can you know that it is prehension without being conscious about it? How can you be conscious about prehension by saying that it is unconscious?
I mean prehension is the unconscious ability of taking in or account. It is not. is not always the conscious. So
So, so prehension is something that it's passive rather than active.
no, prehension is also an active. No, it is not it is not more cognition and nor emotion, but more than that. Whitehead says that it is more than cognition. It is more than emotion, but it is not what we call how we apprehend things, we grasp things using our mental pole. But for Whitehead, no, it's not. Prehension is linked to grasping, even it is unconscious grasping or taking in the previous event. Not actually, there's two types of prehension, right? The negative and positive. So even you neglect that event, even your unconscious neglecting that event, it is still constitute to the becoming of that actual occasion. So prehension is not always cognition. It's beyond than that. Prehension is something deeper. It's as Whitehead in his idea, he says that prehension is feeling, but feeling is not emotional for him. It's more deeper. It is an unconscious ability to taking in or grasping
Taking or grasping what? Reality,
other actual occasions.
the actual occasions, which is, of course, part of comprehending reality. Am I correct? That's your argument.
Yes.
Now, let me go to my question. Can you grasp reality without using cognition?
Grasping reality without using cognition.
Yes, as you were saying earlier, because
Yes.
prehension is deeper, it does not necessarily need cognition. And you were saying it's deeper because it does not need any cognition. Now, can you grasp reality without cognition?
For Whitehead, it is possible. Or it is. Yes.
Are you
Because
sure?
prehension is human beings have cognition, yes, because they have cognition or perception for Whitehead is the higher level of prehension. But if you say about prehension, prehension is not all are conscious or cognitive. So if you say that, can I grasp the reality without cognition, without thinking? Yes, I can. I can. For
You
example,
can
there
grasp reality without thinking.
for a rational being, it is the usage of higher prehension, the cognition. But for lower entities, they can uh, prehend the reality by unconscious or that prehension without a higher level of prehension.
Okay, that's the reason why you have to focus only within the scope of your work. Okay, you are referring to prehension in terms of anthropology. So you have to exclude uh, non-humans in terms of prehension because that is not the coverage of your work anymore. It will take you a lot of time in order to do that. Now, since you are criticizing traditional metaphysics, and that also means to say you are criticizing um, the traditional way of apprehending reality, can you at least tell me or explain to me the ideogenesis in a traditional way? What is ideogenesis since you are criticizing it? So I assume before you criticize something, you first understand it before you criticize it.
Again, sir? It is
Can you explain to me the traditional concept of ideogenesis? Since you criticize the traditional metaphysics, I assume you have a good grasp of it because you cannot just simply criticize something without understanding it properly. What is the starting point of ideogenesis?
Oh, so traditional understanding of reality in uh first is the idea of the permanence and change, the debate between Heraclitus and Parmenides. So what is real is what is it permanent, and and next to that is the discussion of onta or being. What is being? It is permanent. So for Plato, it is the idus. It is the forms. Aristotle said that reality is permanence, but it is in the uh, empirical way. So choose this as the osea or the substance.
Sorry, brother. I think you are answering to the wrong question. No. Sorry. Let me put myself, or let me state my question clearly. What is ideogenesis in traditional manner? I'm not referring to the history of being,
Oh,
okay,
okay. Thank you, sir.
and the opposition between Heraclitus and Parmenides. Ideogenesis, di ba? Criticize mo yung apprehension. Sabi mo, apprehension is lower than prehension.
Yes.
Okay? And uh, and what is the process then of ideogenesis, which has to do with reality? It's a basic question. Ideogenesis.
Oh, the creation. So in process metaphysics, no, there's no idea of what we call this the prime mover or the one who caused something, because process metaphysics is circular. Is circular. So there's no beginning and there's no end. So as you say that Genesis, the creation, for the process metaphysics of Whitehead says that the world is eternal and God is also eternal, but doesn't mean that it equivalent to God. But the world is
Brother, that is theodicy. What I am asking from you has to do with epistemology and metaphysics. Ideogenesis. The one that you were criticizing earlier, sinamarize ko lang. You were criticizing the traditional metaphysics, right?
yes, sir.
And you were also saying that apprehension is inferior to prehension. So I'm just clarifying whether you really understand these traditional uh, these traditional concepts before actually saying and coming into conclusion that Alfred North Whitehead's is better and more adequate than that of the traditional metaphysics.
Uh, Let me ask, sir, what is that meaning of Genesis?
Ideogenesis.
Idea of Genesis. What's that mean? Because it's first time I
So I am I the defendant or the panel? Idea, then Genesis. Put them together, 'di ba? Sa Latin, the birth of idea. And it has to do with apprehension and prehension, as you were comparing earlier. You don't know the answer. If you
okay.
don't know the answer, then we can move forward to the next question.
So Father Ben clarify that. So
Okay.
ideas uh, are formed, or yes, are formed because of the internal relations, because of the experience.
Okay. Sige, I guess I have to move forward to the next question. And this is the final question, don't worry. Now you were saying earlier that let me just go to actually you were saying in the manuscript about God as someone who is not a sovereign ruler, right? But rather someone who is persuasive and relational. Okay.
Yes.
And on page 40, you asserted that God determines the notes that make the occasion harmonize, and that his love holds every occasion on one path so that none should be lost. Now, on page 83, you were endorsing what Whitehead called pantheistic idea. However, you were not able to address the tension between these claims. Okay? If God determines the notes and holds every occasion, quoting you, on one path, this implies a degree of determinism or directedness that is in tension with your repeated insistence on the self-determination and subjective aim of actual occasions. And with that claim, reality is neither determined nor random. Furthermore, you also said here that the term pantheistic on page 83 to describe Whitehead's theology, while the body of the thesis in your whole argument presents a position that is more accurately described as panentheistic. Okay? Now, uh, to uh, to at least be more direct regarding my question, how do you reconcile God's ordering and determining function with the genuine self-determination of actual occasions? And on what basis does it characterize Whitehead's philosophical theology as pantheistic rather than panentheistic, coming at least from what you have stated in your work? So, because you mentioned God's participation in terms of reality, in terms
Yes.
of understanding reality.
So Whitehead's idea of God is not coercive or not like the Caesar who gives commands or rules, but God
Okay.
or Whitehead has true nature. The primordial nature is who order the possibilities and input the for initial aim for every actual occasion. So the consequent nature is a fellow sufferer of the world. He prehends the world and the world prehends him. So that's the idea. So if where's that? So I Whitehead's idea of God uh is not away from the the world but shares of the world, also relational to the world. So he is relational to the world. He relate to the world.
Okay. I think I rest my case because of the time constraint. Okay na po, fathers. Thank you po.
Hey, thank you very much, Sir Blaze and Sir Ben, for the interventions. Okay, so we'd like to request everyone to leave the room for a while for our discussion. Sir Blaze, I'm going to call you through your the messenger.
Sure po, father.
Okay, Jelmar, congratulations. Okay, your thesis is approved, but we would like to give you more time to make some revisions. So it's more or less almost major revisions, no?
Yes, sir.
So then, Sir Blaze would like to just reiterate what are those items that you have to integrate, and then later, Sir Ben also. Okay, Sir Blaze, would you like to reiterate those points?
Yes po, Father. Okay, brother. Siguro just to at least guide you point by point. First, the scope and limitations. Be faithful to the scope and limitations of your work because it will save you. It will save you a lot of time and it will save you a lot of work. So if you are referring only to prehension in anthropological sense, then just limit yourself uh, to that. Okay? Wag na tayo muna pumunta doon sa mga non-human entities in this case. Okay? Um, kung yun nga talaga yung intention mo, no? Well, you have to confer with your advisor first. This is just a simple suggestion. And then when it comes to distinction, okay, you have to be very clear as well when you are criticizing something. No? You are criticizing, for instance, um, the concept of apprehension, but how is it distinct from the concept of prehension? Okay? Is it a cancellation wh- while you support while you support prehension? Does it mean to say that you have to reject totally apprehension? So those are the questions that I think will help you out. And then um, when it comes to the objective of your work, okay, please be clear if what you are trying to do is exposition, which you already said earlier as exposition. Well, you have to be consistent to that. No? If you want to expose it, then expose the idea. Okay, you don't have to reappropriate everything because that will demand a lot of work. So if you are saying that it's the adequate philosophy, then stand by it. Okay, and then um, finally, when you write something that has to do with criticism, ensure that you explain first the side of uh, those philosophers that you are criticizing before jumping into conclusion that this philosopher of mine is better. Okay, so do not do not make your philosopher as the only hero in the story. No, kasi that's the usual error when we see our philosopher as uh, perfect and let's say free from error. That's when we idolize them, but that's wrong. No? It's wrong to idolize our philosopher because we have to be free thinkers, and by means of that, we have to be open to
Look,
criticizing even our own philosopher. So I think those are the points that I want to say, at least to guide you in your revision.
Yeah. All right. So congratulations, brother Jalmar. My comments and suggestions, you can find them in the manuscript and the notes I have written here.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
okay, so congratulations, Jelmar. I know you work a lot and more work to come, but it's part of the whole process. But congratulations, I know you exert a lot of effort on this. God bless you. Sir Blaze, we'll have our picture taking. Can you open your camera for a while?
Thank you po, Father and brother. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you po. Bye-bye.
Congrats, Gemma, Gemma. Congrats, Gemma.
Congrats,
Look,
congrats.
mode. All right.
Winming, you have already picture lah. I saw you open the camera lang. My goodness, good intention.
This is assistant coordinator.
Okay, okay. Let's see, let's see.